Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Caro, and I'm part of the Soft Smile team. I want to thank you for taking the time to join today's session. My colleague Adil is behind the scenes, and he will join us for the Q&A at the end of our session. And please use the chat to enter any questions you may have. And if you are having issues or you can't see us, also let us know. Today, we're going to be covering some updates to Vision that make planning more intuitive and faster. Some of the things that we're going to be covering today is the new tool available in the orientation of the model scene. Then in the setup stage, we will cover the orientation and comparison of models option. We will also go over forces and visualization in attachments, the orthogonal grid view. We're going to go over how to delete movements via the context menu. And then in settings, we're going to cover the new option for the trimming line. And we will end with the printed treatment plan report update that now contains additional patient information. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and bear with me as I switch from multiple screens. That way I can make sure that you are actually seeing what you're supposed to be seeing. Great. I'm just opening up my chat. If my colleagues can make sure that you are seeing the correct screen, that would be great. Okay. Next. So what you're looking at here is the model orientation scene. Now we've created a new tool called Scissors, and it is up at the top of the bar, as you can see. The scissors feature is available specifically in the scene because of the extra scan fragments that appear, especially towards the behind the molars, the posterior areas, sometimes captured by the intraoral scanners, and they often interfere with the positioning of the jaws. So let's go ahead and see how this tool works. We're going to activate the tool. And let me move this over here so we can look at, let me see here. Looks like we can't see the screen, so let me go ahead and make sure that we are capturing the correct one. There we go. Okay, so here we are back again at the model orientation. Here we go and select the tool that we're talking about. So this is in order to remove any additional fragments that we're going to be removing. And so a lot of this intraoral scanners capture a lot of the information that we require, but again, we also capture information that we don't really want. And so in this instance, we're going to go ahead and remove areas that impede the occlusal of the jaws. So we're going to go ahead and activate the tool, and we're going to go ahead and remove areas that we don't want. And so by encasing the area, we just simply click on the red button and remove the areas. So I'm going to activate the upper so you can see. So some of these scanned additional tissue areas have create a conflict with us occluding the model. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in and remove these areas by encasing them. The red button appears for the area we want to remove, and we simply click on it. And you don't have to spend a lot of time removing every single mesh. The model usually is cleaned up throughout the system of the software and removes all these excess. So this is, again, Scissors, and this is in the model orientation feature. So next, we're going to be covering the orientation and comparison models option. So we're going to move into the setup scene from another case. There we go. And let me make sure that you're seeing that, because as I switch screens, sometimes that stops sharing. Okay, I believe you are. So here in the orientation and comparison model options. So it's usually to visually validate and fine-tune orientation of the 3D model. So I'm going to go ahead and activate the tool. So this can be used in conjunction with the photos that we add to the patient's information, and we can adjust it to make sure that the model matches the image if that's something we would like to do. If it's just the option to manipulate the canter of the patient or change the pitch, we simply go ahead and use the plus or minus button. And I'm just going to zoom in so you can see a little bit how the angulation happens. So we can increase the pitch, and so both models are tilting posteriorly. And I'm going to undo it so you can see the change. So we can reset the entire and go back to the original position, or we can tilt both models towards the facial area. Next, we can also adjust the roll, which we can canter the case. So we can do either left or right canter. And then the yaw. So you can see the change from the both models shifting towards the left or towards the right. And so in conjunction with the images that we may have uploaded for the patient, we can make adjustments. Let me zoom this a little bit out so you can see. We can make adjustments with the images. So in the patient images, we have an option called Show in Viewport. When we activate that, we can choose a photo that we would like to have shown in the viewport, and that image also has the capacity to be more or less visual. We can use the opacity slider, and we can go ahead and improve the visualization, and then we simply move the model and coordinate with the image. And we can increase the size of the model or increase the size of the photo. So if we want to increase the size of the photo, we just simply pull on the sides of the image to increase it. And then we can go ahead and increase the size of the model and select the movement in order to go ahead and match it with the photo. And again, you can use the pitch, the roll, or the yaw to be able to canter the case or tilt the case to visually handle the matching of the photo that you're looking to match. So this is another tool in the toolbox to help you acquire the best treatment possible. So again, the tool is the jaw alignment, and if you prefer, you can go ahead and use patient photos to align the jaws with the photo. Next, we're going to go into forces and visualization in attachments. So let's go ahead and zoom in. So the forces visualization functionality is designed to inform the user of the actual mechanical interactions between the aligner and the teeth. So in order to help the user place the attachments more effectively and improve the transfer of the forces to the aligner, then we can go ahead and use this visualization tool. So let's go ahead and zoom in so we can see. Now, when the attachment tab opens, you have two sliders that control the visualization of the vectors. So you can choose to activate and visually see them, but you can also choose to see them on all the teeth or only on the tooth that you select. And so then based off of the visualization of the vector, you can effectively choose your type of attachment, whether it's an intrusion, rotational, and the arrows are representing the movement. And so based on that, the strength of, or the force that is happening in the movement are represented by the arrows. So as we look at intrusion and extrusion, for example, the longer the arrow, the stronger the force, and the shorter the arrow, the gentler the force is. And the idea of this is to help you place the attachments where you see it fit the most for the treatment. So placing the attachment remains at the discretion of the user. Vision does not dictate where to placement, but it gives you the best information possible in order for you to make that decision. So again, you would simply activate the vector, select the type of attachment that you want to use, and place it accordingly to where you see fit for the forces to generate the strength that you wish to apply to the tooth. You still can manipulate the profile, meaning you can still manipulate the size of the attachment like we normally would have using the width or the profile or the length. Okay, so this is another great tool to help you achieve the placement of attachments. Next, we're going to cover the orthogonal grid view. And so when the orthogonal grid view, which is found in the grid icon, the camera removes the perspective distortion and guarantees the scale of the objects relative to the grid. So when we activate, you see the perspective change, which allows for the appropriate measurements to be taken regardless of the depth or the zoom that you handle in the screen. If you've never taken the measurements, we take measurements using the ruler, so you can activate the ruler, select new, and then take your measurements accordingly to where you see fit. And the measurements will remain here unless you discard them, you don't need them. But if you want to keep the measurements, you can they'll be saved in this window. So again, to activate and deactivate the grid view, you simply just select the icon and take your measurements. Next, we have the option of how to delete movements via the context menu. So this reduces time by, quick intuitive removal of the movements of any specific tooth. And this, we created this because before we used to have to open the treatment plan in order to remove the timeline of a specific tooth in the treatment. So before we would simply go into the treatment plan, select the timeline, and select the delete button on your keyboard. That would delete the timeline for that specific tooth. Now, instead of opening the treatment plan, we simply right-click on the tooth that we want, and then we use the delete movements option, and then the movements for that specific tooth are removed. So that would be deleting movements via the context menu. Next, we're going to cover the new options for the trimming line. So I'm going to go ahead and switch screens so we can look at what that looks like. Okay, so this setting is meant for the post-processing stage. And so this new option for the treatment line is a way to choose the geometry of this line that is being represented here. So let's go to the settings. We're going to go to menu. We're going to go to company settings. And then we're going to scroll down to the post-processing. In the post-processing, we have the cutting line option. So we'll select that. And remember that you do have to click on set values in order for you to be able to manipulate any of the changes that you want to take. So go ahead and make sure you activate the set values. And then we have the next options available to us. So default cutting line offset. So by selecting that, it means that the distance from the trim line to the gingival margin, by default, it is 2 millimeters. And actually, let me move the model up here so we can actually see as we're talking about this. Okay, so the trim line is measured from the lowest point of the segmented tooth towards the top of the model or the bottom of the model if you're looking at the lower. So this offset is by default 2 millimeters. So if we want to increase the value of how much gum tissue is showing from the gum margin, we can enter the value. And then next, we're going to have the default cutting line geometry options. So when we have no convex line, it means that this line just follows the natural contour of the gingiva, but does not show up anywhere when we print the models. The options that we have available now is convex along the entire model. And so what that means is that there is a trim line that is being represented that will extrude outward around the entire arch. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment. So convex along the entire means it protrudes along the entire model. But if we have convex only on elastics, it means that that protruded line is only going to show up where elastics were placed. And so I'll show you that as well. The smoothing straight is really the percentage of the smoothness or rigidness of the line that is created. So sometimes we want to create a scalloped versus a straight line. And so the smoothness of that line is represented by this value. And you can enter the value of smoothness that you feel appropriate. So let's just do like 50%. And the next option here is the cutting line file format. So here, if you have automated trimming machinery in your production, you choose the option that works best for the machinery that you're using. So you have the IGS format or PTS format. And at the bottom here, we place two well-known trimming machines. There's no limitation. There's many in the market, but you can choose either the trim line or look screw if that happens to be the output format that you require for the trimming that you are using. So we're going to save these options that we changed as a preview. And it's going to render, it's going to apply all the changes that we just made. So in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and again, look at the cutting line options. And as you can see, this is the offset settings that we originally started with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click reset in order for the changes that we applied to the settings to take effect. So we're going to go ahead and select reset. And you may see the change. I'll undo it and redo it in case it goes by too quickly, so you can see the change. And then I'll show you what the actual convex line and how it's represented in the model. So I'm going to zoom in. And again, we're going to undo real quick so you can see the difference. So again, we went from standard 2 millimeters offset to 5 millimeters of offset. Now you do have to remember that there has to be some kind of gum tissue scanned in that in the original scan. If there was no tissue scanned, then it can't extend to generate this visualization of something that wasn't scanned. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so in order to design your lines a little bit better for the scalloped look or straight line look, you would go ahead and still generate your look based on the preference for your doctor or your lab. And then you can go ahead and generate the scalloped ideal cutout line. And so how this is represented is once you export the case, this is what will happen. So when we say convex line, this is the convex line that will be represented on the model. Some people will use it in order for their technicians to go ahead and trim accurately. And again, if they are using the trimming machinery, then the information is exported for those machineries to cut as you've dictated on the line. So this is on the entire model. So this is the first setting we talked about, convex line around the entire. The next setting is the second setting that we talked about, which is along the elastics. And so let me zoom in. And so then now the elastics is where the convex line is protruded. Okay, so that's what the settings mean in terms of the trimming line. So let's go back. If you want the standards to be applied, you just simply go back to the settings, company settings, go back to post-processing, the cutting line, and again, reset to default, and that will reset everything you initially did for this particular case. And when you hit reset, it'll reset everything. And then when the case opens back up, you have to save it as a preview. But when the case opens back in the post-processing and you select the trimming line, when we click reset again, then the options will go back to the standard. So it takes a minute. So we'll go back to the trimming line and we'll click reset. And then it'll go back to the standard default settings. And that would be the way to manipulate based on a case-by-case basis if you needed to. Okay, so I'm going to undo so you can see where we were. And then now that we're applied the resets. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the printed treatment plan update. So let's look at that. So we created this new option because we are entering additional information for the treatment plan. So we have standard, the treatment plan, we have the visualization of our attachments, we have our IPR values at the context that need to be applied, if we have any elastics, where they're going to be placed, and the bite ramps. And as we scroll down, we have the second page that you've seen. This was on our last update. We added this second page for our model analysis and our tooth movement table. And you can see the speed values and the movement type for each tooth. You have your Bolton analysis or your Bolton ratios. And then the staging. You can see each tooth move by what speed it's moving and when they start moving in the treatment plan. So if they start later in the treatment or early on in the treatment. But now we have a third page. And so in the third page, we've added the representation of the final occlusion, as you can see here. Next, we also added the position of the teeth and the gums. And finally, if there was a CBCT uploaded to the case, you can also see the roots obtained from the CT that will represent the patient's dentition. Okay. So those are some of the new updates that we're going to be, that we talked about today. So next, Adil will be joining us for the Q&A that maybe you guys have been writing questions in the chat. I do want to go ahead and also add to our chat as we answer some of these questions, the places where you can request a demo and any release notes that you would like to look over based on the updates that we've had. So I'll go ahead and add those. And we welcome Adil back.
Hi, everyone.
And
Yeah, I can see one question here that asks about the trimline options for LAC again. And
would you like me to show that?
you can show just what is it, the options for trimline adjustments in the software.
Sure.
And I can elaborate a little on how the integration with LAC happens.
Sure. There we go.
So yeah, basically, for the integration with LAC, you would just select the normal PTS line here and adjust the line to your preferences. And you would export the models, STL and PTS models, to move them into your LAC machine. By default, basically our PTS files and STL files, they're named with the name contains basically a description saying whether it's an export or whether it's a trimline. And LAC, I believe, the requirement is for both files to have the same kind of naming convention and not to contain any extra data. So basically, the files have to have the same name except for the file extension. So you will need to reach out to someone from our side, me or someone on the support team will help you configure the settings file once, and then you should be able to export files in a needed format. Currently, it's not, so you won't be able to do it, let's say, from the settings menu yourself. You will need some hand-holding from our side, but once we set it up, you should be kind of, in all your further cases, you will. Can you show what are the drop-down options there for Trimline?
Sure.
So this is just an XML file along with other files that are exported. XML file is basically a file that contains information about the case, the names of your models, the names of the PTS files. So all of that is contained there, and and that information is then conveyed to a machine that you're using, if that machine requires an XML file. LAC does not require an XML file from you, as long as you upload STL and PTS files in the same naming convention, you should be good to go. They will understand which line corresponds to which model. That's the way kind of LAC works from from the integrations that we've done previously. Maria, can you show one of the exports, just the contents of the export file?
Sure. Let me find that file.
Just a zip file and what the contents are.
Let's see.
That or the XML file, the one on the top.
This one right here?
Yeah, you can open it. Yeah, so this is what an XML file looks like. So you have the patient name in there, you have the IDs, and you can see that there's an arch model and trimline file, and they have specific names kind of corresponding to each file. So this one contains case ID, then it indicates which Elena number this is, and then it tells you that it's a lower jaw, and then it adds a kind of a description telling that it's an export or it's a gum line. So export corresponds to STL and gum line corresponds to a PTS file. LAC does not want any of that information, so the both file names have to be identical. And we can help you adjust that. So for all your further exports, you will have identical file names for the arch model and the trimline file, and then you should be good to go.
Excellent. Okay.
Can you read the question here? Okay. Can I please have a contact number who I can reach out to set up our LAC by hand finishing 50% of our lower arches due to extended compliance alone, although you can just send me an email and I will put you in touch. My email is edil@softmail.com.
There you are. I went ahead and entered it in the chat.
Thank you, Maria.
Mhm.
I was just about to do the same.
And I believe that's all the questions we have for now, right? Because the last thing I did want to share with everyone was if anybody is interested in reaching out to us and having a customized demo, please go ahead. I entered these a little bit earlier in the chat, so it's softsmile.com, and you can book a demo right here at book a demo icon. And then you just fill out the information and phone number, and one of our team members will reach out to you. And the second thing I wanted to share with everyone is if you are currently using Vision and you did want to go ahead and look at the most recent release notes, I also placed that in the chat a little bit earlier. So you can see the release notes, softsmile.com versions. You can always look over the release notes to see what's been updated and get ideas of, how you can improve your treatment planning with the updates. And I also wanted to let you guys know that if you are going to be attending any of the events that are happening in Brazil or the greater New York or Cologne, please feel free to stop by our booth. We'd love to have you. And I think that would be the end of our session for today. Unless there's another one. Is this software compatible with all types of aligners? Yes, we're an open system. So as long as you have an STL file.
Let me answer this question.
Sure.
So we currently do not export files that are compatible with direct printing. You have to use a third-party software to convert your models. We export traditional models that are used for thermoforming the aligners. And we have a couple of customers that use, for example, I don't know if I need to name the printer manufacturers, but kind of the most famous ones, Luxview and Graphy are the ones that are mostly used in the market at the moment. We have a couple of customers that have been using Luxview, but they basically take our models and then they convert them in a third-party software. Our software does not export models that are compatible with directly printed aligners at the moment, at least. Rematch workflow explanation. We will need to have a separate session for that. So
there's another question also regarding updates to the tooth numbering feature. If instead of it being embossed, instead of it being raised, if it could be embossed.
Not yet, not available at the moment. We're working on that as well, but it's not part of this release. For the matching, I think, Maria, have we recorded anything regarding the matching
I don't think so. We do have a quick, I think, Instagram post on it, but just reach out to us and, maybe we can do a quick demo on that.
Yeah, send an email, please. We'll find a video that we've done for basically some of our customers, and we can explain to you how the matching functionality works. But I mean, this session is dedicated to this particular release. It will take us quite some time to explain the matching functionality, so unfortunately we won't be able to cover it right now.
We also need more controls on blockout. Is that something that you are working on?
Can you elaborate, please, or what kind of controls you're looking for? So currently you can, as you know, you can move the blockouts, the interproximal, interdental blockouts, you can move them around and you can scale them. So that functionality is already available. Yeah, you can apply it to all aligners, you can do it individually between a pair of teeth. So yeah, if you can elaborate kind of what controls you're talking about, we can maybe you're missing something that we already have, or maybe it's something in development. I will be able to answer your questions if I. Okay. Try to move the okay, got it. Yeah, I know there's some. What is it? Requires some handling. We are optimizing this feature. It's not part of this release. I will talk to our developers. We can come back to you on that, but I can ensure you that we are working on enhancing the post-processing to make it to give you more optionality in there and to make the process smooth. Can you explain the different options when exporting? So in most cases, using advanced or advanced with blockouts should take care of your needs. So it's just the default and advanced. The difference between the two is basically the way models are kind of merged together, the kind of algorithms that we use on the back end. I would say it does not concern the end user that too much. But as far as the blockouts go, you may have some undercuts, you may have some, black triangles between the teeth. So when you choose the option that says advanced with blockouts, it will try to smoothen the black triangles between the teeth, and it will. Okay. So yeah, so the advanced with blockouts basically tries to smoothen all the undercuts and the black triangles. The other one will export models as is. So that's the main difference between the two. And I think we'll be getting rid of the default option, just not to confuse the users too much. So advanced and advanced with blockouts are the ones that will stay in the software in the upcoming releases. The last question about IPR, we actually already updated it in the newest release. You can you can download the latest update. It's already available on the portal. And you should be then able to modify the IPRs as you were able previously in previous versions of the software, even on the matching exercises. So that ability, that option has been restored.
I'm just checking if we missed any questions.
Maybe can you show the blockout screen on the? Can you show the post processing scene?
So we can see it here, can't we?
Yeah, if you have anything, if you have one of these.
So fillers. Here's the option for the blockouts. We have fillers, so we can add to one of the aligners.
We still see the website.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I have to switch screens. Look at that. Share. There we go. Okay, there we go. So by right-clicking on the gum tissue, you have the option for fillers. You can add to the current aligner or all of them. And then, so the fillers are there. And when you right-click on the filler, you can go ahead and either delete or use the movements option, which allows you to manipulate the filler to bring it out, either change the position if you want it further buccally or further lingually. And if you right-click again, you also have the scale option, in which you can go ahead and manipulate the handles to increase the height or increase the width to make the adjustments, as you need.
Yeah.
I hope that clears a bit of any doubts on where to use them or how to use them. And again, it's on the right-clicking and on the gum tissue, and fillers is the option that shows up.
Yep. And if you just want to put them between a particular pair of teeth, you have to select the neighboring teeth using your control button.
Yeah, select both, and then you would be able to just add the filler between only those two teeth. So again, select one, control key, select the other, right click, and the filler option will show up, but only in between these two teeth. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions.
Thank you so much, Elaine.
You're welcome, guys. It's our pleasure. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, so we'll stop sharing, and I believe that would be it.